Hey there, Fro Nation. Welcome to the next episode of FroKnowsPhoto RAWtalk. And this week's episode that you're about to see the full episode of on YouTube is the wrap-up from PhotoPlus 2012. My thoughts, what I liked, disliked, who knows, whatever. It's going to be here. I asked Adam Lerner to join me. He is in New York. I was here at my dad's house recording this, and through the modern technology of Skype and internet and stuff, we did it together. So you can watch the full episode right here coming up after I'm done talking on YouTube, or if you'd like to download the podcast, you can go over to froknowsphoto.com/podcast or click the link below to get access to the MP3 file or iTunes or wherever else you would like to listen to it. So stay tuned right now to watch this week's episode. Yeah, I know you were just asking me about this cold thing, because you know that I had a cold, or I was working on a cold before, Adam. And, I kind of picked up some hauls right off the bat and made sure to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So anybody that thinks that PhotoPlus is a one big party, it's a party if you're going to go out and do the partying and being in New York City and go drink and do all that stuff all night. But I made sure that I got 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep on the nights that I was there.
Wow, that's impressive, because I think that there was a lot of other people that didn't. So good that you took care of yourself. Well, you kind of had a busy schedule running that booth and all, which was kind of a first, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was nonstop. Day one that we did PhotoPlus, we did 2 hours of live broadcasting, but we spent the next 4 hours after, from about 12 to 4, 4:30 or 5, so maybe a little more than that, going around to different booths, making in-booth videos that we ended up cutting to supplement the live broadcasts on Friday and Saturday. So, the live broadcasts were a hell of a lot of fun with John P. and GeekBeat TV, and obviously a big shout out to PhotoPlus for buying into the idea. I pitched the idea in February of last year and was like, look, I would like to have a booth, and this goes back to asking for things and proving your worth. And I basically said to these guys, look, I'd like to have a booth, and this is what I would like to do. I would like to live broadcast out of there.
Right.
And I told them that, pitched the idea, got the right partners on board with GeekBeat TV, because they've got all the gear and the know-how to make that work. And we came together and made it work.
So they brought a tricorder in.
TriCaster.
TriCaster.
For those who don't know what a TriCaster is, you're looking at a $10,000 box. It's a production box. What are you changing? Microphone volume?
I was just changing my headphone volume.
Oh, headphone volume. Yeah, the TriCaster comes in. Yeah, we'll talk about that setup real quick. For those of you who watched, if you haven't watched, all 3 days are going to be up. We just have to get GeekBeat's going to work on cutting that up into 3 days. Then they're going to cut up each individual segment, and we're going to end up putting those segments up for people to find and see all of the different goodness. But TriCaster, it's a production truck in a box. So you run through 3 Canon Vixia cameras to it. We had light panels, LED light panels. We had these headphones that worked really, really well. Because I actually listened back to the audio yesterday when I got home, and I was like, wow, that sounds really good. And you live broadcast through Ustream. Now, the only problem with Ustream that I noticed and a bunch of other people noticed is that we don't have control over ads that run. And just out of nowhere, depending on when you sign in, at a certain increment, people would see ads that we had no control over, and that just interrupts the show, which is not something we want to do. So maybe for next year we can find a different solution that will be our own video player that we can stream live without worrying about any bumps and ads from other people.
I actually, I checked out some of the stuff online, and I did notice the ads running. But the content was pretty killer, so it was worth sitting through the ads.
Yeah, I mean the whole point of doing this was to bring everybody at home, because obviously 20,000, 25,000 people come to the show in person, but there's a whole world of people that aren't there. And if we could get interviews, and if we can get product reviews and discussions, we can bring that to everybody. And I think a ton of people were sitting there at home watching, and we gave away about $10,000 worth of gear, including Drobos and stuff. And it was just great. And I would like to have more interactivity. And I think we learned a lot this year, and they already asked us back for next year. So we have to figure out how to make it even bigger and better.
Sure. Well, I think the thing is that if you can really drive the point home that you're bringing the show into people's living room, into their computer, into their iPhone, wherever they're going to watch, it definitely creates more awareness for the show. It gets the brand out there, and it's kind of a win-win situation for everybody.
Absolutely, and that just again shows everybody that if you have an idea
Yep.
and you have the backing, and I'm not talking financial backing, I'm talking quality work backing. If you
Right.
can pitch something and you can say, look, this is what we create, this is what we do, and this is the plan. I went to them with a very, very simple idea and just said, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to happen. And here are the people that are going to be involved.
Right.
And I made it, I don't want to go into all the details of our discussions back and forth with these guys, but, we made it so easy on them that they basically said that we were one of the, they liked working with us a lot. They liked working with us a lot.
That's the idea with any kind of a job that you're pitching. When you're pitching some blue sky, is that if you think through all of the details and you make the decision easy for the other person because you don't put all the logistical nuances on their shoulders, then it obviously is going to make it easier for them. And because you've got experience producing, a number of different events of all different sizes, and you bring your brand and all that to it, I'm sure it was the kind of thing that people looked at and wanted to get on board with.
Yep, and GeekBeat TV definitely helps a lot, having the gear, having the know-how, because they've broadcasted out of there before, and
Yep.
it went off really, really well.
I can tell you that even just the little bit that I did watch, the audio and video quality was very high quality.
Well, I'll say one of the concerns we had is the internet at the Javits isn't stellar, but
Right.
we had a line that was dropped down because that's what you have to do, and we had a dedicated line. We had Wi-Fi in our booth for us to use and stay connected, but we had a dedicated line plugged into the TriCaster. We broadcasted, and I don't think we lost signal from that, which is great.
Sure.
So that's enough about that little bit of a setup. But you talked about parties a little bit and how some people definitely stayed out late for parties, and I know that Peter Hurley's party went till 3 a.m, and I was there. I went and I left at about 11. I could have stayed later. It was a really good time. His studio was packed. It was an F-Stoppers party with Peter Hurley, and I already told Peter, I said, next year, why don't all three of us do it together? Because it was, Zach Arias said it was one of the best parties, or the best party at PhotoPlus.
Right.
And that's because it's not a BS party. It's open to everybody, and that way it's not just industry people, it's the fans, it's the people at home who really matter, who we really want to be with, and not just industry insiders who all they care about is schmoozing and partying. We just want to hang out.
It's that, and it's also at his studio. It's unlike having it at a remote location, you're actually he's hosting it, so it's a different thing. But
his studio and his rooftop.
That's awesome. That is truly cool. Well, the Fro party was pretty awesome, I must say. That was a really good time, and a lot of people came out, and I met some great industry folks and some great fans as well.
Yeah, it was great to have the support. Three-Legged Things, Vanguard was there, Think Tank was there. LeRae came in, I believe, for a couple minutes, and it was more laid back this year because we didn't push it as hard because of all the live broadcasts. But next year, I think it'll be really cool for all of us to team up, Peter,
right,
you, me, and F-Stoppers, and just to have a really big blowout and make it a lot of fun.
I agree.
So moving on to the show, because that's what we're doing here. This is more of a wrap-up type for PhotoPlus. The things I liked, the things I didn't like, the things that I took out of it that I want to share with you guys. And I know, Adam, you were there for what, about a day?
I was there for an entire day.
Right, and you spent one of the days also out with Hasselblad, which we'll talk about a little later.
That their event was called Shoot NYC, and it was Hasselblad Braun, which we can get into as well. But I spent a full day at the show, which, every year I spend more and more time at it because there's only so much time, that one can actually walk the floor. But what's happened for me is that now, because of being on the Fro show and because of, I guess the momentum.
Fro show.
Well, whatever, there's a lot more folks that I know, and a lot more vendors that I know. I mean, there were people that were just kind of grabbing me as I was walking through the show, which was really cool. It was great to talk to, all different kinds of folks there. And, I think that as a photographer, we really need to have solid relationships with vendors, with manufacturers, with the folks that are providing us with the gear that we're using every day. And it's like when you're a professional, you're somewhat of a troubadour for a brand, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And
So
we saw a lot of stuff at Photokina, and this show is kind of
yeah,
different. This show is more I'm not gonna say laid back. Obviously, it's smaller than Photokina, which is about 5, 6, 7, 8 times bigger. But
yeah,
what the things I noticed here is you had some smaller companies, but you also had the big companies there, and I saw a major impact from what I'll call the Kickstarter projects type of companies. You had 3 or 4 different companies there that were involved with Kickstarter and getting their ideas off the ground and into a marketplace because they had an idea. They
right.
they built prototypes and then they put it out there on Kickstarter and people wanted it. There were
Right.
some really good ones. Some I really like, some I don't like, and we'll get into the likes and don't likes a little bit later. But it just really goes to show you that if you have an idea and you can put it together and it's a quality idea and it fills a need for people, then you have opportunities to bring it to the masses. And if the masses like it, you've now created a business. And what I was telling Adam before we started here is what I like about those smaller companies is they focus in on one product and doing
Right.
that one product right at the beginning. Sure, they'll branch off and do some bigger products after that, but they start with one, where some of the other larger companies have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different brands under them. And these guys are so passionate about the one thing that they just do it really, really well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's not even for photography stuff. I mean, there's people that have launched albums, record albums. There's people that have, financed films. I mean, it's such an incredible thing, an incredible tool, I guess, for somebody who doesn't have venture capital to be able to kind of group source resources to fund a project. And the interesting thing about Kickstarter is the social component of it, because it gets you involved. It gets people involved on a very small level that most people typically don't get involved in the research, development, and implementation of products on a bigger level. So I think for that reason alone, that if somebody gets behind it, it's kind of like when you get behind a new band or something.
You're invested in it. You
Exactly.
helped bring it to market. And then
Exactly.
with that said, there's some cool objects, but then it seems like there's always an influx of the crap gadgets, the things that are like grabs for there's a ring light, and not ring lights, but these flash accessories that are meant to make you do this and meant to make you do that, and they're $120, and you can get the accessory pack for another $50, $60, $70 with the gels and the stars and the BS and the crap like that. And it's just I'm tired of seeing stuff like that. And I even sat down with Zach Arias when he was at his Fuji booth after he got done speaking, that we did that in the live show, where he starts talking about, he's like, I saw some things I just really, really, really despise.
Right.
And I just, it's like really, I want to go up to them and say, why are you creating this crap? And there is some of that there. And it's just, I'm not a big fan of those little accessories. I mean, I say that now. Maybe one day I'll have an accessory, but I don't know if I'll ever put out something that I can't talk. I mean, I guess I can't.
What I think the
say
thing is
much.
that I think that inevitably anything that you and I would put out would be something that you and I would want to use.
Right.
That's something that we would believe in, not something that would be purely for monetization sakes.
So
And I think that
remember
there's
Germany?
a lot of get rich stuff.
I
Yeah.
never showed the Gary Fong dome thing. We ran into Gary Fong in Germany. He had a little side of his booth because I think somebody invested in his company, and so he had a little bit of a booth. And he's talking about his product, which it does what it's supposed to do when it's in the right hands and people know. Like, he knows what he's doing with his own thing. It has a
Right.
purpose, but he just comes across as such a salesperson. And I asked him, hey, you shoot RAW? He's like, no, I don't shoot RAW. He's like, I had a bad experience with RAW. And that just was like, okay, what was your bad experience? He's like, well, when I was using my Kodak 620, I'm like, yeah, well, that camera's 15 years old or something. You could have a bad experience back then, but to say that you don't shoot RAW now is just like...
You know what it is that he's unfortunately stuck in old school mentality. And that kind of talk coming from somebody who's trying to potentially be an innovator with a product is something that's a real turnoff.
Well, he never sent us the pictures he said he would send us, which is why I'm ripping on him right now.
Because if you think about how technology has moved, to think that you had a bad experience shooting RAW a decade ago,
right,
and that's enough to tarnish you. And I think that the other thing that actually struck me about that too is that how he was saying how you were forced to use, proprietary expensive software. And there was a whole thing where it's like, you know what? Come on.
Get with
If
the
you're not
times.
using Photoshop, but his whole vibe at the same time was like he wants to use stuff that's cheap. And he's like, I use a Vivitar flash and I use a cheap,
And he
DX
said
Nikon.
he's using a lot of Sonys now. And I'll just flat out be like, yeah, Sony's. And Sony blew us off, by the way. Sony blew us off for the live show where they were supposed to bring us a bunch of gear and never could set up a time, didn't want to come to our booth. I wanted to get the Sony gear. I wanted us to show that because there's some interesting things, but if they're not going to give us the time of day to bring it to us, that's why you haven't seen Sony on the site, because they were like, yeah, we'll send you an A99 in a month to review. I'm like, well, that's not going to cut it. I go, a month from now, I don't really care.
It's got to be relevant. It's got to be time specific. And that's the thing about technology is that, interestingly, even when we were doing our wrap up of Photokina, everything that we saw at Photokina had already been announced. I mean, whether it was a month, a week, or a day before the show. So you get to the show and it's like, okay, there's no surprises here. Granted, it's nice to be able to actually physically play with and touch the new gear and whatnot, and be the first to have a hands-on with things. But no longer are these shows
surprises.
About the big deal, other than like that fantastic Hasselblad Lunar, which we won't even go and revisit again.
We thought they were calling it a Luna the whole time. Yeah, you haven't heard crap about that. I didn't even see one at this show at PhotoPlus. Going back on to the, we'll not even go back to the.
We'll digress.
The Fong Dome debacle, but we'll go into. You talk about something new. The only thing that I know that was announced pre-PhotoPlus was a Nikon 70-200 f4.
Yeah.
Did you go and play with it?
I didn't, and look, there's no reason why well, I'll put it like this. I have absolutely no interest in that lens. It doesn't, provide any kind of appeal for me and for what I do. I'm sure it's a fine lens. I think the price point is probably really nice for people that are
$1,400 still.
It's like $1,000 less than the 70-228.
It is, but you're stuck in an option with the Sigma 70-200 28 OS, which is $1,399 as well.
Here's the thing: what ultimately needs to happen is that somebody like you or whoever needs to take the the Sigma, and the Nikon F4, and just go out and do a shoot with both lenses. See how they perform.
Here's my thing with the 70-200. I played with it, and I sat in the booth. One of my favorite interviews of the whole PhotoPlus was with the Nikon guy, with Steve, because Steve's an awesome guy, and we had a great discussion about this live, and I got really excited about it. I don't see it for me as a still lens. I see it for me as a possible video lens because of the new VR. It is the 3rd generation VR, and that means that it now has 5 stops of handholdability. 5 stops of better light, low light handholdability, which, whatever. The first one was 3, the second one was 4, now they've got 5 stops. And where I saw the difference was when in the booth, I zoomed out to 200 millimeters with the VR on, focused on somebody on the D600, and it was stable. It was still, and I was hand-holding out at 200. I flicked the VR switch off, and it went right into Bouncy McBouncerson mode, and to me, that was a major thing for video. That's a lighter lens that I would rather hand-hold shooting video than a 70-200 2.8 because that's really heavy and not as stable, but I could stabilize the 70-200 f4 with the VR on for video, and I think that would be a good option for video shooters who are doing weddings, who are really just shooting video and want a longer reach that's stable without a tripod.
I absolutely agree, and I think that's a perfectly legitimate investment for that type of thing. And look, it's also when I can tell you that when I shoot with the 70-200, I think it's butter. I love it. I think it's probably one of the best lenses I've ever owned. But it is a lot of glass to keep stable. Just handheld.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I think my first real solid 2.8 zoom was the 80. The original 80-2.8, not the push-pull, the one that preceded it.
The ED, the two-touch, as they called it.
I have to say, man, that thing was sharp, it was fast enough, and it handled beautifully, and it was lightweight.
And guess what today that lens is? Not sharp enough, a little too slow, but back then it was great for $999, and they still sell it for $900. They still produce that lens, and that was the first 2.8 that I ever purchased as well. But
I absolutely loved that lens.
So let me throw in a dislike. Let me throw in the first dislike of the event, and that was the Nikon booth. All right?
Uh-oh.
So the booth is fine. It's the same every year. It's cool if you've never seen it. Okay, so I've seen it a bunch of times, but I always look for booth babes. This year they had some interesting stuff. So the J1 area, because they came out with the JV2, which is a nicer little camera. They actually totally redesigned it. And what I said to the Nikon guy when he brought it on stage, I said, so basically you redid everything that you should have done in the first one and got it right in the second one. And I just said that because that was the truth. It just was a much different camera, felt better. But the booth, you got these now. You had break dancers and tap dancers. It was just like, just put the hot girls out there, let people come by and shoot. And then they had this the worst thing ever. And I mean, I think Canon had something pretty bad too also, but they had like this flower montage set up with cameras set. So it's kind of boring. It's like nothing's going on for people to take pictures of. Maybe, you know what would have been cool? Here's something that would have been cool. And I think this is a good idea because I'm good. Like they did have something cool with the video end. They had a lab, like a mad scientist playing with smoke and colors and like he was in a science lab, you know, playing with Bunsen burners and stuff. That was cool setup for video. But here's what I would like to see. I think it would be cool if you had like a painter. You had a painter painting oil painting of a beautiful girl or a good-looking guy or a couple sitting there. You know what I mean? So she's posing for the painting. The guy's painting. So now you have his art easel. You've got the painting as it progresses throughout the day. You know, over the 3, 4, 5 hours that he's there doing it. You have all of the different colors of paint. You have the model. You've got different angles. You have so many different ideas. I'm good at this. Why don't they listen to me? Nikon, put this in your booth and smoke it next year.
You know, it's funny.
That's a good idea, right?
Okay.
You disagree with me?
No, it's fine. I mean,
but imagine, but it opens up.
Everyone's going to have their own idea for stuff.
I think my idea was good.
It's good.
Very good.
You know, look, I mean, that show was small, and it gets smaller every year. And, you know, you think about Photokina, those booths were enormous.
Oh, yeah, one whole building only housed 3.
Exactly.
For the big boys.
Exactly. So to have all those big boys packed into that tight space, it's a different thing. There's a different budget. It's a different thing altogether. But I agree that having a more dynamic booth is probably better than having one that's like kind of static like you were describing. So
why don't I go into, let me go through my list here. Kickstarter projects, accessory overkill we talked about. Oh, and I saw this too. You know, it's funny. We were getting a lot of comments when people were watching live and they could see that there was a gadget I may not have been interested in.
Right.
It's funny. I guess my emotions are I wear them on my sleeve and my face. You can read them when I'm sitting there and I'm just like, and for those I guess who are watching the podcast because I'm doing the video of it, I just sit there stone faced or I go, yep. I have the go-to words like, yep, that's cool. Sounds good to me. All right, let's move on. You know, there's certain gadgets where I just sat there because I had nothing to say, and if you don't have anything good to say, you kind of don't want to say it. But
well, of course not. Right.
You know, I try to find good things to say, but you know, I put my emotions out there, and I just thought it was funny that Ari was like, yeah, the people were commenting in the room how bored you looked for certain things, and then how excited. Ari said that when I started talking about something with Nikon, that my legs underneath the table started to stomp, like they started to be all giddy, you know, like pitter patter type things, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know I was doing that. But so yeah, there's that. Let's see. Apps. I don't want to talk about that yet. Likes. There were some things that I really did like. The Wacom Cintiq.
Yeah.
You know, the 24-inch.
Thing is spectacular.
For those of you who don't know what a Cintiq is, or sorry, Wacom. It's called Wacom, not Wacom. It's Wacom. It's a Wacom tablet. There's a $99 version. We actually gave away one of the $200 versions, and all the way up to a $360 version where you get a pen and a tablet, and you can write on it, you can draw on it, you can do all of it. It basically replaces your mouse. You could replace your mouse, but the Cintiq versions are actual HD screens or non-HD screens that you can do illustrations on. You can do color corrections and touch corrections, and they're touch sensitive and multi-touch, and they were just beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you used one?
I've not used one, although it's definitely one of those like wish list items that, yeah, sure, if I had that kind of extra cash laying around, I would love to have one because I know that I'd probably really enjoy using it and editing on it. But Oh, you got to stay with us, man.
I'm yawning. I'm sorry. It was a long.
You know why? Because you did too much. But I do know, like our buddy Juan, he uses a Cintiq tablet to do his editing on.
Your buddy and my buddy.
Yeah, and the thing is that his editing has really changed, and for the better. I mean, he really creates. He does a very artistic job with his edits, and I would imagine that tablet has had a huge has been quite integral for his process.
You want to know something interesting? Is I went over to the Cintiq and I've never used one before. The guy handed me a pen.
Right.
And I was just trial and error figuring stuff out. I discovered that if you hover the pen right over the Cintiq itself, the screen, it brings up the tools options, and so I could make the paintbrush larger. I could make it smaller just by hovering it there, and it was really intuitive. It made sense. So it really seems like a cool gadget. So I like that gadget. And then there's one of Peter Hurley's favorite gadgets, which is a jerk stopper. Do you own a jerk stopper?
Every camera I've ever owned has a jerk stopper on it, and the thing is that when I shoot tethered, which I do quite a bit in the studio, interestingly with Lightroom you can tether both via FireWire and via USB simultaneously, which means that when I'm in the studio, I've got my Hasselblad and my Nikon plugged into Lightroom simultaneously, and both of those cameras have jerk stoppers. And I've had jerk stoppers for years now, ever since I learned about them.
It's a company called Tether Tools.
Tether Tools, and I actually even use Tether Tools FireWire 800 cable with the Hasselblad because the little end bit that plugs into the camera is smaller than on a lot of other FireWire cables, which gets kind of just jammed into that port, into the door area there. But anyway, the jerk stopper is something I would highly recommend.
So basically, what it does is it holds in place your USB or FireWire cable.
Well, what it does is that it goes onto, basically, if you loop your FireWire USB cable from the port on your camera, and then you attach the jerk stopper, let's say, to where the camera strap loop is. What it does is that if you happen to yank on the cable, it will yank between the jerk stopper and the camera strap loop rather than yank on where the cord is plugged in, because that thing remains stationary. So that way you never disrupt your connection, which is very possible. You could be moving around, you could accidentally step on the cable, whatever happens, you're not going to disrupt your connection to your camera, which is really important when you're tethering. Another
one of my favorite, well, see, the Tether Tools people came to the booth, they talked about something else that I don't even remember. It was some kind of app. I think it was some app that it was interesting, but then again,
you weren't that interested.
I wasn't that interested. It made sense. I think it was something that you could view your images from anywhere on an iPad because it uploads it to the cloud. I could be wrong. It could be some other company, but it obviously wasn't as memorable as the jerk stopper. And Peter Hurley was one of the cooler interviews because he just took over when he jumped on stage with us, and he was talking and shebanging and doing all of his Peter Hurley stuff, and then he went off totally on the jerk stopper, which is one of the most interesting names ever. But he loves his jerk stopper. He loves using that and talks about it all the time.
No, it's really the best thing, because oftentimes when you're tethered shooting, the camera, there's a little bit of a buffer, okay? So that while you're tethering and you're just shooting away, it's not like each image instantaneously writes. So you need to maintain that connection. So if for any reason, like you lose that connection, you could lose multiple images, which is a real problem. So I'm a huge advocate of it. I've never actually really talked about it, and the thing is not that expensive. So
it's $16, I think.
Something like that. I mean, look, there's not much to it, but it's really well made, and it's a brilliant idea, and kudos to those guys. Those guys also make a number of other little devices that are like that. They make like little iPad stands.
Well, that thing was awesome. They showed us that. That looked beautiful.
I would love one of those. I mean, look, they make a whole suite of little handy accessories for people that do a lot of studio work and tether. And, I could definitely see myself over time, getting into a lot more of their product.
Right. Let's jump over to another thing I didn't like. There wasn't terribly too much I didn't like, but I try to keep it positive. But so Samsung has a huge following, a huge booth now these days. Samsung's been doing a ton over the past couple years with with technology, whether it's their phones, whether it's the cameras, whether it's the TVs, which I was looking at TVs today, like $999 gets you a 60-inch HD TV these days.
What?
Yeah, it was like H.H. Gregg or something, and it's just insane. Their TVs are great. Their phones, I don't use them. I use an iPhone personally, but they've done a great job marketing that S3 or whatever they call it. Is it called an S3?
I don't know.
But then they go to the booth and they bring us another gadget, which you could hear me. I could just sit there. You could hear a pin drop from me because I wasn't talking. It's a Samsung Galaxy. Oh yeah, it's a Galaxy S3, I think. Samsung Galaxy camera. So it's a 12-time optical zoom camera that runs Android. Nikon made a camera with Android also, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. But Samsung did the same thing, and the guy's talking about this camera, and it doesn't have a viewfinder. It's all touchscreen, but it's like, look, AT&T will be selling it with a data plan, and you can go right into Instagram, and you can go right into Facebook. I'm like, so where's the phone in it? I'm like, why don't you just build the phone into the damn thing? Because now it's multiple devices again. Now if you're gonna get a camera, get a camera. The thing's probably going to be $500 too. He couldn't even give us a price. And I don't want to lose my voice. I didn't lose my voice all along, and now I'm starting to get a little hoarse. But, come on. An Android phone? Put it into the phone. Sorry, an Android camera. Put it into the phone to begin with a big-ass camera lens on the back, and call it a day.
Yeah, look, but, you and I both know that there isn't one thing for everything. And that's the thing, that there's so many little niches in the market. And believe it or not, there are people that will buy that thing. You and I are not of that group, but there's definitely people that will buy that thing. Just like there are people that will buy the Hasselblad Luna.
Well, I find it funny that a lot of the show, you got point and shoots from every company. You got Pentax there. You got Olympus, who blew us off, by the way. You've got Sony, Canon, Nikon. They all have these Micro Four Thirds and Mini. I didn't think there was that many this year, but Pentax came to the booth with the weirdest thing ever. Is the smallest interchangeable lens camera that you've ever seen. I mean miniature, with a sensor that's like, Adam, you can't see my screen. It's smaller than, it's just like, it looked like a thumbnail. It looked like the size of my thumb, smaller than my thumbnail was the size of the sensor. Smaller than Micro Four Thirds, smaller than the Nikon One, and it had interchangeable lenses. I was like, what's the point of this? Why am I going to spend $599 for this toy camera? And I misspoke. I was trying to make a Zoolander joke, and I was like, look, it's for little people. I didn't mean...
Do you see my screen?
No, I can see your screen, yeah.
Okay. Do you see this?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
It's a 110 camera.
It's a Pentax Auto 110.
Oh, he talked about that. He said previously they had the smallest interchangeable lens with...
a little interchangeable lens. It's got a 50 millimeter 2.8, and it's tiny.
It's tiny for those of you that are watching on YouTube right now. And the other guys out there, it's just like a miniature camera.
You want to see something funny while we're at it?
Well, I do, but wait, I was making a Zoolander joke, so I wasn't trying to offend little people.
I have the actual flash for it.
Oh, okay. Well, see, Pentax, I really wanted to ask the Pentax people how they continue to make it in this market. It's very difficult. They put out, I like the colors that come out of the Pentax. They seem pretty punchy and stuff. But on the Pro line, they don't have a Pro camera. They've got more prosumer type SLRs. Right. It's a tough row to hoe. And the same thing happened with Panasonic when they came to the booth. They're all breaking in. Samsung. They all have got these Micro Four Thirds things. And obviously for me, and I'm honest with it, for me personally, I'm not in the market for one of those cameras. And the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds SLR, it's not called an SLR, but it's an interchangeable lens one, was $12.99.
Right.
For $12.99, I'm not buying a Micro Four Thirds camera that's that big to carry around.
No, but for $6,500, you could have a Hasselblad Micro Four Thirds.
What? Is that how much the Luna is? Lunar.
Like $5,000 or
piece
something.
Of crap.
Well,
Sony Nexus 7, aka Hasselblad.
But anyway, look.
Speaking of Hasselblad, you spent time with Hasselblad. I know what
makes you think that?
Oh, Adam's showing everybody pens at home. Adam loves his Hassie. I also know that Peter Hurley just bought his H5D. He's waiting for it. Yep. And I don't know what you are looking to do. What can you tell us?
Same thing right here. Basically, Hasselblad and Braun, which I guess they partnered up together. Braun bought a stake in Hasselblad.
Is that Braun as in like the shavers?
BRON.
Oh, so not BRA, you know, with the thing on
They
top.
make extremely high-end lights.
Yeah.
Lighting modifiers, and light packs. I mean, it's beyond amazing what these lights can do. So they had an event over at the terminal building, and it was pretty cool. They had all these different like They had lectures all day long. They had seminars that were all free. They had like little shoot booths there, and then they had a bunch of different vendors, and they had the new H5D for people to play with, and then they had the national Hasselblad folks, and then they had regional sales team, because basically what happens is that if you want to buy a Hasselblad, you can't buy it from them, but they will put you in touch with a regional sales team. And that was kind of my thing, because what Hasselblad does every year is that they offer an upgrade program where they will give you a certain amount of money for your old camera and back toward the purchase of a new system.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool deal, because they basically will take your old camera and back. It doesn't even matter what condition in it. This is independent of your lenses, and they will allow you to take that and put that toward the purchase.
Oh, so you get to keep are you moving up to the next camera?
Exactly.
So you get to keep your lenses, yet they're giving you more money for the back and body.
What they do, unlike some of the other medium format folks, is that the back and the body are calibrated to each other at the factory. Whereas like phase, for example, the backs and the bodies aren't necessarily calibrated. So you can buy a phase body and a phase back, and they're more interchangeable. Okay. There is a version of that in Hasselblad. We don't need to get into that whole deal. But the whole point is that, you know, I've got 2 generations older system. I've got the H3 2 system, and now they're at the H5D system. And the H5D is pretty revolutionary, and I mean that in that a lot of like newer cameras that have been brought to market have been more evolutionary, but there is some really fantastic improvements with the new camera. So it was a really terrific meeting. I mean, I spent hours there between talking to the Hasselblad folks, between talking to the folks at Capture Integration, which are an outfit based out of Atlanta. You know, I had a really good talk, and looks like they're going to be sending me some evaluation gear to play with, because
here, let me say this: you went and hung out there with a goal in mind.
Yes.
And this, again, you can get to know anybody just by going and talking. This was a free event.
Free event. And the interesting thing was that, you know, the Hassi folks had already kind of checked out my work. They were kind of already on board with what I was doing.
And to interrupt you, I don't know why people say not to interrupt you, because you're freaking interrupting. To interrupt you, hold your thought. We put in the FaceTime in Germany. And
yes.
Did you run into people from Germany who were there in New York as well?
Absolutely.
And we were on Hasselblad TV.
Yes.
And back to you.
So anyway, so the point is that, you know, it's nice because, you know, medium format is a very small niche. If Nikon sells 3 million bodies a year and Canon sells 5 million bodies a year, Hasselblad sells, what, 5,000?
Yeah.
A year. So it's a smaller niche, it's a smaller network, it's a smaller community. So it's nice to have the support, you know, within that network, because, you know, it is a different, you know, machine. It's a different animal. So I found that to be really cool. And I think that for anybody who attends the shows in New York, that attending the Shoot NYC thing, just, you know, there was people like Chase Jarvis did a speak there. I think Vincent LaFerret did a talk there.
We had Vincent LaFerret on the live show.
Exactly. So a lot of the real kind of industry leaders that, you know, kind of were walking the floor, and some of them that actually spoke at PhotoPlus, they were also doing free seminars and lectures at the Shoot NYC event, which is a 2-day event, which was really cool. Really cool space. The whole thing was really cool, and it was very, you know, it was a kind of a laid back kind of a vibe there. It wasn't as inundated as PhotoPlus.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing. Well, when you get the camera, I want to take actually a ride up, and let's go make some videos and shoots when they give you this gear to play with. And you don't get to keep it; you have to send it back. For all those people who think out there that we get gear for free, it doesn't happen. You don't.
Right.
Huh?
No, but here's the thing. He's going to send me. Right now, I've got an H3D2. He's going to send me an H4D, which is
the one they just replaced.
Well, yeah, a couple of years ago.
Which I wouldn't, you know, kick out of bed.
Absolutely not. Because the H5Ds probably won't be shipping until January, maybe February or so. So just in the interim, he's going to send me one of the H4Ds just to play with, just to get it, you know, accustomed to true focus and all that other kind of stuff. which is kind of a cool thing. You know, I mean, for somebody to want to just go out of their way to send you a pretty nice rig like that is, you know, to me, it's a good investment in a company.
All right, so back to PPE. Let's go down a list of more likes. There was something that I liked a lot, and this is another Kickstarter project. It's the what do they call it? The Cinemoco. So Cinemoco.com. They did this thing called the Cineskate back on Kickstarter. They actually gave us one to give away that we gave to Sam Green. Actually, I told Sam Green that it's for all of the kids at Antonelli to play with, so he was going to take it back. But They came out with this thing called I wrote it down here. Well, the Cinemoco is this. Think of it. Think of like something with roller skates.
Looking at it online.
Yeah, you're looking at it. There's 3 of them, but there's a computer box connected to it. So you attach your camera to it, and basically the computer box, you can set it to tell this thing how far to move, at what increments. It will shoot your camera for time-lapse photography. If you wanted to move as little as an inch or as little as like 1 centimeter or a tenth of a centimeter, this thing will move, say, an inch, take a picture. Move an inch, take a picture. Move an inch, take a picture. Or what was even cooler was he could roll it independently and it would know where it started and it would know where it stopped, and that you could have it replay that motion time and time again on its own, and it will just run right through it. Then you can get rails for it. Then you can get batteries for it, and it works with your cameras. And it's just such an ingenious idea, and it's not terribly expensive to get motion when it comes to video, because God, smooth video panning like on these wheels would be awesome. Check out Google Cineskates, Google Cinemoco. Just really fascinating device that the guys brought up on stage for us.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the stuff online, and it looks pretty amazing. I know that there's been a lot of DIY stuff in this, in this realm, and I'm sure that there's some really high-end stuff. So this looks like it really bridges the gap.
Well, yeah, because the lower end stuff is just like wheels on a plate, and you put a camera on it, and then you roll the camera.
Sure, this is very cool.
This takes it to the next level where it can run circles and do video. You can set the computer just like those old things that people had in tech classes back in high school, where you say move 10 inches to straight, then turn left. It will do all of those different things, and you just check out their website. That is one of my top 3 gadgets from the whole event, was that one. But I think, I'm not going to get to my top one yet, but there was the Aviator Travel Jib. They work closely with Three-Legged Things. They share a lot of technology with the carbon fiber, but it's a jib that gets really small. For those of you who don't know what a jib is, you can set it up, and basically it's like a crane for your camera, but you can put it in a backpack and travel with it so that you can get cool, smooth pans and, start with your camera 6 feet in the air and then let it pan all the way to the ground and move. So it's a travel jib. Again, you're looking at something that's around $1,000 for the full setup. But for what it offers, instead of spending, something that you can control yourself, instead of one that's 20 feet and $20,000, it's a really awesome. It was another Kickstarter project that took off and did very, very well, and is going to start shipping soon. We met with Zeke. Zeke is the owner of it. Another guy who had an idea, created something, put it out on Kickstarter, and the world loved it. And now he's catching up and starting to get the orders out. So it's the Aviator Travel Jib, which is really cool for the video makers out there that are looking for something light. I think it extends to 6 feet, which is pretty amazing for the package, and can hold up to, I believe it was one holds 6.5 pounds for the student edition, which is not carbon fiber, it's aluminum, but for the carbon fiber edition, I believe it was 7.5 pounds of weight that it will hold on the end. So your Micro Four Thirds cameras, your video cameras, and even the D4 with a lighter lens on it would work.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at this online. It's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, so that's another cool thing. Let me ask you, I know you were there for the day. Was there anything that stood out in your mind that was like something you really liked?
As far as these kinds of products, I didn't spend as much time on these because I really was hitting more of the bigger vendors and the vendors that I've, been in touch with either virtually or, in person in the past. So I didn't I didn't really see anything specifically like this.
All right.
to really address.
Well, I will say the Drobo was there. They had a small booth, but they just started shipping the Drobo Mini, which I know Peter Hurley was loving because he wants to take that on the road with him. Because
I would love to have that for location shooting. I think that would be spectacular.
By the way, on the live show, we gave away 6 Drobos, we gave away 3 Minis, and 3 5Ds to people all around the world. So and speaking of contest, I want to run a podcast only contest. This is just for the podcast. I'm going to say it's going to be on Twitter this time because that's what I got where I think it's easy to track this stuff. It's only going to run for a week after it ran, so it's going to run from Monday to Monday. This is going to launch on the 30th, I believe, is Monday, October 30th. So what I'd like you to do on Twitter is make sure that you write, hey, I heard you offer this contest. No, don't do that. I don't want to do that. I didn't really think this one out very well.
No, think it out and then post it.
I didn't think it out very well. But no, I'll just say tweet something that says RAWtalk. Make sure you tweet it. Hashtag RAWtalk. Make sure you have @FroKnowsPhoto in there. And just say, I know you know. Just say, I know you know. And I'll find somebody in there and I'll give them some kind of prize, some kind of gift. I don't know what. But yeah, I want to see that you know that I know. I know you know. So @FroKnowsPhoto somewhere in there. Like, hey, @FroKnowsPhoto, I know that you know. #RAWtalk. That's easy enough. And the people that aren't in the know won't know that I know that you know. You know that I know. That's it. That's what we're going for. So good. That's out of the way. Something else I liked. It's something new. It's a split off from Think Tank. It's not... I don't know what's going on here. I think it's more of a new business. Think Tank's helping get off the ground. It's a new company called Mind Shift. They do bags. I think that I wish I would have liked to have seen Think Tank together because Think Tank has the urban end. Mind Shift is more for the adventurer. It would have been cool, I think, to name it Think Tank Adventure or Think Tank Hiking or Think Tank Travel or
Mind Shift just doesn't really do much.
Mind Shift doesn't do it for me. I think there's probably hidden business agendas.
I couldn't even get near that booth, and crazy as it sounds, like every show their booth gets more and more packed. Like it's impossible to get near the booth.
But let me talk about you're right. Let me talk about this Mind Shift bag. I said this to the guys at Think Tank and to the guys at Mind Shift that came on. I said this is the most ready to go first product that I've ever seen in terms of a bag. The thing was the prototype was like so well thought out, so built really well, and it just seemed like a great bag for people who go through the Amazon, people that hike through the forest, people that hike a lot. This bag is made for you guys. So whereas the Think Tanks are more the urban style bags for shooting there, this type of you can check out mindshift.com, I believe.
Mindshiftgear.com.
Mindshiftgear.com.
What we should do is we should put all the link backs to all the products that we talked about in the description, in the show notes.
Yeah, we should. It's just this Mind Shift gear bag, which is going to come out around $425, or I think for the higher end version. There's a lower end version that doesn't have all the accessories. But what was amazing about it plays off of on a rotational bag. So you can reach around to the right side or the left side, pop open a magnetic switch, which was amazing, and pull around sort of like a fanny pack of gear.
There's a good image of that exact thing where they show the bag. They show that the bottom center is kind of hollowed out, and then if you look, you see that portion of the bag that has swung out and is sitting, at the waist of the photographer. So essentially, you can basically keep your backpack on, swing that thing around, grab your gear, swing that thing back, tuck it in, and keep hiking.
Yeah, we'll fit a pro body with a 70-200 and some other things in there.
That's what they have, yeah.
And also, the reason they have that, the guy gave the scenario of, like, if you're knee-deep in mud, you have nowhere to put your camera. So you can just slide that around. But better yet, if you need to get into the top portion's modular. It has an insert that pops out that has, you could hold more lenses, you could hold more cameras, or you could just hold other goodies up top. It also has a bladder that holds 3 liters of water or vodka or whatever you're putting in it with a nice drinking hose straw thing. But you could turn the backpack around, flip it forward, and unzip it from the back. Like the backpack, like the back area opens fully up, so you can access it without ever having to put the bag down. So that was pretty incredible. And the materials used are the same that you'll find in your think tank bags. It's manufactured in the same places, the same designers put it together. It's just a separate company that I'm sure is going to work hand in hand with think tank. For those of you guys who aren't into the urban environments, but you're in the travel environments, that bag was so well put together and thought out that I just think they have a first product that's winning right off the bat, and I look forward to seeing what they come out with next.
Yeah, I'm a massive think tank advocate, so for me, knowing that this is being manufactured to the same quality definitely piques my interest. Speaking of think tank, I just recently went on their site to try to pick up a logistics manager, and they are sold out of it again.
Oh.
Every time I've had the inkling to do so, they've not had it in stock.
Well, you said something that piqued your interest, so we have a dislike on my side, which is, if everybody remembers the Peak camera plate, I will say that I gotta give mad props. I'll go with the positives first. Mad props to Peter Daring, who started. He had an idea. He's not a photographer, but he carries a camera around. He shoots pictures, which is fine. There's a lot of people that do this. He took another idea to create a product, get it out on Kickstarter. It took off like mad. They've sold like 31 or 32,000 units of this Peak action plate, which they're still finding their feet, because at first they were trying to make it like it's like it's a Black Rapid killer, which it wasn't, because when I used it and attached it to my belt and put a pro body on it, it kind of made my pants fall off, which isn't a great thing. But they've started to take the product to the next level. I still dislike the product for that original purpose, what it was used for that. I prefer my Black Rapid and maybe some other solutions for something like that, because this doesn't have a tether, though they came out with a new tether that's coming to market, which is ingenious. So this is a dislike with some like mixed in, where this tether thing, it's spring-loaded, it hooks together, it protects your camera from dropping if you lose it, if it falls out of your plate, but to me, that's overkill. He tried selling it as a camera sling also, which I think is not really. I think that's a stretch. But the way that the connector worked, the connector that he came up with is something that I think will be useful for bags and tie downs and just major industry implications if they go ahead and license that out to other people. So I think the products that they're creating in terms of that are great, but the capture plate I'm not a fan of. But they have this new plate that has an anti-twist thing on it, which is really good. Basically, it's trying to be the one plate that fits everything, because it will fit an Arca Swiss, it will fit a Manfrotto. They say it fits a Black Rapid, though it took us 3 or 4 tries to get that hooked onto the Black Rapid thing. So, dislikes mixed in with likes. Give the guy mad props. We sit next to each other. He knows I'm not a fan of that product, yet we had him on. But I still think he's done a tremendous job in taking an idea, making it work, and there are winning products that they are creating that I give them mad props for. So likes with dislikes.
Hopefully they'll pay enough attention to feedback to be able to refine it and to get it to work properly.
And I gave him mad props sitting there for refining the plate again, that with the anti-twist and the plate that they created, which for the Manfrotto, I'd love to have that option with what they've created as another plate. But you can look that up. We won't spend too much time on dislikes. I didn't have too many dislikes because I just stayed away from that. But another like, I think this was one of my favorite things, and it was surprising. I think this was my top favorite. I think the Cinemoco was like the one or the second or third, along with that Mindshift bag.
Right.
Was this Cam Ranger. You don't even know what that is, do you?
No, I don't.
I didn't know what the Cam Ranger was, and the guy came on to talk about the Cam Ranger. He's like, I'm an engineer. He's like, it's a husband and wife team. They're engineers. The Cam Ranger, Adam, gives you the ability.
Your camera to your iPad.
Well, wirelessly connects your camera to your iPad for under $300.
It's a wireless trigger.
No. Yes, but no. It goes well beyond that. It gives you a full interface to live view your camera on the iPad, to do time-lapse, to do HDR images, to change focus points, to do video, to do what my D4 does, but not with a $900 connector. It lets you do it with not any camera yet. They just started, but they started with the 5D Mark II, the 5D Mark III, some of probably the D600, D800, D4, I don't know what other cameras they do. I'm sure there's a list on their website, but they said they're adding more cameras, compatibilities with it later. But it's going to take something. What?
It looks like most of the current Nikon and Canon product line is supported.
Right. And so what it's letting you do, say you have a D7000 and you get the Cam Ranger, and it's a wireless device that takes batteries, and I think you get maybe 5-6 hours of a charge, or double A's. I don't remember which it was, but it gives you up to 150-foot range, because it's line of sight. Well, line of sight's better, but it gives you 150-foot range. So if you want to put a camera up in the rafters, like the time-lapse photo video that I did, you can then wirelessly access it on your iPad. Touch a focus point. For under $300, you're getting access to this thing. And I know we talk about gear and buying things and spending money, but if you want to wirelessly control your camera and preview the images, it will transfer the JPEGs. It won't transfer the RAW files because they're too big. But that's why you can. I say you can shoot RAW and you can shoot JPEG at the same time, because you'll have both. But it lets you preview those, change the focusing points, and it just you can see that I'm passionate about it, because it was a surprise thing for me.
I think that, for me with a D3S, being able to control the video features, because I can't currently do that with my D3S.
And you have we all had the ability with the D3S on missing our focus.
Oh, you still can't.
We shoot alone, so this would be a good option for you. And being that you only have 5 minutes to record, it saves you that.
You can't do it with the D3S.
Well, it saves you that 20. Oh, you can't?
No, I'm looking on their site.
All right, well, maybe they'll build that functionality. Like I said, it's a mother and father. It's a husband and wife company, small company. They had a little side booth near the bathroom, booth number 9 as they called it, but they had a tremendous product with tremendous promise, and I gave this guy really good. He sat there, he's like, look, I'm not a product specialist, I am an engineer. And I said, look, you're doing a great job. You're not overselling, you're just saying it like it is. Because it's your product. You're passionate about it.
Right.
And it connected to the iPad. It connects to Android devices. It connects to the phone, though you want a bigger screen to look at for the iPad. So if you have a D7000, you're recording video on your own, or you want to shoot stills from an area you can't control your camera, you can do the focus, and it's a free app. And that leads me into another thing I don't like. If somebody's going to sell you a tool that uses an iOS app or an iPod app, an app for a phone, an Android device, or anything, if they're going to make you buy a tool for $300, $60, $50, whatever amount, and they make you buy their app, that's a bunch of crap. If you're spending the money, give me the freaking full version of the app and let me use it, because I just spent this money. That's the whole point. Don't make me buy an app on top of spending $100.
I agree.
Wow, I just got dizzy from that.
That was a good little rant, man, and you did that on one breath.
That's why I'm dizzy and lightheaded?
Exactly.
So I really liked I liked the Cam Ranger. I think I rate that as like one of my favorites. Followed by,
let's link back to all these things, man. Let's get everybody looking at this stuff, because a lot of these things I didn't know about, and I'm really intrigued.
Well, that was the point of the live show, and the point of the live show for everybody out there is not to tell you what to buy and not to sell you on anything. It's to just make you aware of these different options that are out there from different companies.
Well, of course. I mean, you're not in bed with any of these companies. You're just talking about stuff that you liked.
No, I was just in bed with Alan's camera. And Sigma for helping us get there, and Drobo, and then there was SmugMug, because they sponsored it and they help us get there. But they allow us to bring you all of this other stuff, so that's why that's a good thing. We need them in order to help us bring everybody to you. But yeah, next year I can't wait to go back and do it. We've already been asked back to do it again, so in about a week or two we're going to start the process early for building a new set. We're going to get a bigger set. We're going to try to get the entrance area was where we want to do it, so that people can join in and watch from around the world, but also in person. And then I want to have more interviews with bigger photographers. I think we earned our wings. After day one, they invited us back. That's how happy they were with the job that we were doing, and have to really thank John P. and Dave and Ken and Ari and Leora and Nicole and whoever else helped us out when we were up there to make this possible. And Callie back home when she was Callie Lewis from GeekBeat TV. They were all very integral in making this go off really smoothly. And I could say without a hitch that we can go forward and do it again next year and tweak it and make it better and get you involved more. Hopefully you can be there for more days. And it was just, I love the live broadcast, so I'd love to hear your guys' feedback on that, because for 3 days I didn't get to see any feedback because I didn't sit up on the panel with any way of interacting. No chat room open because I didn't want to be distracted. The only time I got distracted was when there was gear I didn't like and I just sat there and staring off into the great blue yonder.
Yes.
But it was cool seeing all of the readers that came out and stopped by the booth. Next time we're going to give you some stuff for stopping by. We didn't think about that until we got home, but it was really cool to see you look out there and see Father Anthony sitting there and a bunch of people. Our friend from Delaware who picked up a new D800. A lot of PhotoPlus stuff and I Shoot Raw shirts and signed a couple of autographs and students from Antonelli. So it went really well. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it at home. So I'm looking forward to bringing it to do more and more of that. Live broadcasting. So I hope to do a live show from my new loft, Adam. I think we may buy our own TriCaster. I think we may invest in our own setup so that we can bring you more live shows from anywhere, because the TriCaster's portable.
Yep.
It's $10,000, by the talk?
You could put it in a truck and with a generator, and you could live broadcast from anywhere.
You want to talk about investing in something? A $10,000 thing is what I'm thinking of investing that, if I could pull the funds together to do it, that would allow us to bring you guys live broadcasts from anywhere, but professional live broadcast. And hopefully I can tie Spreecast into there somehow, but live broadcasting is what it's all about, with graphics and overlays and it's so professional. And that's what, if you set out to do something, do it right. And I'll tell you, I had to team up with GeekBeat TV to make this work. I knew I needed help. When I first pitched the idea, it was just Ari and I getting everything ready. And then I was like, you know what? I need to call the GeekBeat TV guys who I've met and seen do these live broadcasts and make the partnership right there, because I couldn't have done it without them. And they had the know-how. And that's what you guys have to do out there, is team up with the right people to make things work.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. Team building
and cooperation and building up the Fro Nation, because we work together as Fro Nation, and that's what it's about, and just bringing people together. That's what we did at the party. People that never met each other are now meeting each other and becoming friends.
Yep.
So let me run down my list one more time. Peter Hurley, I liked when he was up on Peter Hurley was great. Zach Arias was great when he came on, and I got to thank Mark Wallace for coming on, because he was great as well. So great guys to hang out with. I was also, Vanguard is a sponsor of the website currently. I don't know, but they'd like to sponsor for next year too. I got to figure out if I want more sponsors or not, because I know that can be a pain in the butt just for me and all that. But I have to say, playing with the Vanguard gear again, I'm really happy with the quality of tripods that they put out there. The sticks are great. Some of the heads are a little awkward for me. I think they need to decide on a new plate. I wish they had a plate that was like Bogan. I wish they had a better plate that always had the D-ring on the back to tighten. So it's not all roses and butterflies with it, but I think that the legs are great. They're sturdy. They travel well. There's affordable. The 263 AT, that's with the ball head, not the ball head, but the grip pistol head. I think Alan sells them. They're under $300 for a great tripod that's going to last you a long time, and then under $400 for the carbon fiber options. It's just the affordability and quality that they offer just helps. And that's not a plug. Even if they weren't sponsoring, I would say that, because more than half, they're the only one that's sponsored here, between the Cintiq, the Jerk Stopper, the Cinemoco, the Aviator Travel Jib, the Cam Ranger, Mind Shift. I didn't even talk about the Quantum Ring Flash that is a ring flash that pops a flash and doubles as a ring flash that does just LED lighting, by the way. So that was something that was cool. I'm going to stop. I think this was cool wrapping up the PhotoPlus live stuff.
Very cool.
So, again, thank you for coming on. Thank you guys at home.
Sure.
All of these things that we talked about, we'll try to get the links up there for you to go check out their products from their web pages, to support them if you'd like to, from the Jerk Stopper to the Cam Ranger all the way through. And don't forget about the FroKnowsPhoto Beginner Guide. If you guys are looking to pick up something that's going to help you get out of auto, FroKnowsPhoto.com/guide. 3 hours of killer video that's downloadable, and it's going to be coming to you on DVD with a digital not a digital download. It's going to be a DVD, so you can play it in a DVD player, but it's going to come with a higher bitrate version of a data file on another DVD that's a data file that's going to be like 8 gigs worth of the video. So where the download is only 4 gigs, 4.7 gigs total, or it's like 4.2 gigs total, you're going to get the digital file that's over 8 gigs, so it's higher quality. That's going to be in the DVD package. 2 discs. I haven't even announced that yet, so I guess that's kind of an announcement. That's coming for the holidays too. Adam, anything for you to talk about?
No, I mean, I think that we got to leave them wanting more. So thanks for having me on. It was a great time at the show. I know I definitely want to do more next year, but I enjoyed what I did get to do of it, and that's what I have to say.
All right, guys. So for all of the live PhotoPlus live stuff, I will be posting the 3 full day videos. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put up day 1, day 2, then day 3 as a separate video. But then the Geek Beat guys are back home cutting up each segment. So we're going to put those segments up. So if you're looking to just find a certain segment, you're going to be able to check those out as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so it can automatically be delivered to you every Monday. We let it go early for those subscribers. It goes up on Monday for subscribers, and on Tuesday is when we promote it to everybody else. So if you'd like to get it early, please subscribe on iTunes. You can download the MP3, so you don't even need to have iTunes in order to get the MP3. It's on Android. It's on different, whatever. I don't even know what else. It's on, I can't even think of some of the other.
It's on multiple platforms.
Yeah, I can't even think of the names of the other platforms. But thank you guys again for listening. For those of you who watched on YouTube, in the future, I hope to record the live versions with, I'm going to test out GoPro Hero 3s. I bought one to try to record record the podcast so that we can bring you video, we can bring you audio, and if you want to watch it, you can watch it. If you want to download it and put it on your phone and take it to work and put it in the car, jog around, all that good stuff. I've talked a lot. I still have my voice after 3 days of talking. Adam, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining.
Yep, good to be here as always.
All right, guys, I'm signing out. Fro Nation, Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.